and then after that we're going to go into a Q&A section, and you can ask whatever you want or whatever. We continue the discussion depending on the mood of the people. So you don't have to stay past the 30-minute mark. It's really important for me to get feedback from everyone else here. But let me just set up for a second here. It's always the initial setup of getting the chat to come up on both channels here. So I don't see it yet. Always takes a little time here. So that's the thing too with a live stream. What actually happens is there's a delay in the time that I actually do a broadcast versus the time that I see even the comments. I don't see any comments. There we go. Finally, finally I see the comments. So anyway, the topic tonight is actually going to be about VPN routers, and specifically about some other methods of constructing a VPN router, including one that involves this particular device here. So we'll talk about that, and then I'll answer questions about it. So just so you know what we're going to be focusing on. So if you're a long-time follower, maybe some of you can answer the question, why do you need a VPN router? And you will likely find that many people don't actually know. I think some people will make an assumption about why you need a VPN router, but I'm going to guess that most people don't actually know the right answer. So we're going to consider this an initial review, this first section here, where we're going to discuss why the VPN router is important. So we all know why a VPN is important. So actually that's kind of a different reason than a VPN router. Why is a VPN important? Well, we know that we are tracked by third parties, by Google, by your ISP, by so many people on the internet. I mean, every action you do, even your DNS queries, everything that you do on a computer is actually used to hide the IP address, which is the identifier that is used to identify your behavior. And there's a history of that. And I'm sure three-letter agencies have a history of everything you've ever done on that IP address, which is not the reason you need a VPN router. That's a completely different reason, but it's actually the reason why you need a VPN. So I just want to make this clear. Now, there's a separate threat that happens that requires a VPN router, and again, it's tied to mobile phones. So if you're home and everyone in your household never fails to use a VPN on all their devices. Let's say you have a household of 4 people. Let's say you have husband and wife and two teenage children, let's say. And all of those people are using the internet. And the entire family is disciplined enough that everyone uses a VPN. They install a VPN on all their devices. Do you need a VPN router? No. The problem is it's not going to happen. It's not. Your kids aren't going to run the VPN. Your wife may not care or your husband may not care to go click on that VPN or install it or even start it. So there's going to be some times when they're not going to be on the VPN. And here's the worst part. When you are on mobile, where the actual danger is, when you are on mobile, chances are that the mobile users are not going to start the VPN and be on Wi-Fi. And this is where the danger is actually. It's on mobile. So here's the actual problem that requires the VPN router solution. If you do not pay attention to this, what happens is you're on some app, like Yelp, and or TikTok, or obviously Facebook, and you're on that app on the phone, and you're cavalier about location settings, and you like Yelp requires you to give it location rights. The Weather Channel requires you to give it location rights. So you give it location rights, and it's then using that to pick out your exact location via the Wi-Fi triangulation method or GPS if you're outdoors. So it gets an exact location of where you are within 6 feet or so, and it actually has that value. And then it matches that to the current IP address. Okay, so you said, that's interesting. What do they do with that? Well, they sell it. They sell it. So what happens is the combination of IP address and location is sold by tons of apps, tons of it on mobile. On mobile, it's not a issue on computer. It's a mobile problem. So here's the other problem. You got friends and family come visit you, and they come to your house and they say, "Oh, can we borrow your Wi-Fi?" And you dutifully say, "Yeah, here's the password," and they go on your Wi-Fi. And of course, they're not going to protect their phones with a VPN. So your IP address is then sent out, and of course, they're going to allow location because they allow Weather Channel and all these different apps, TikTok, and they're going to collect all the IP address combinations with location, and that gets sold to a wholesaler or aggregator of locations like Ear.com, Skyhook Wireless, and so on. Now, this is what happens. That's sold as a reverse IP lookup database. So if somebody can detect your IP address, like let's say Microsoft may not have spotted you and stored your location because you didn't let them, but then they can buy the third-party database. It's easy. You can buy it for a few $100 and per year, and then you have the database of everyone, including their locations, just based on the IP address. So then it's no big deal then to say, okay, I know I have your IP address, which by the way is on every email. Every one of your emails is an IP address. If you hit send from your network, it sends the IP address. Now they can match that to location. So the IP address problem, which is significant and important, becomes an even worse problem now because now it's matched to exact location. Exact. This is a very significant threat. Very significant. Because there's no way around this. Now, I've tested myself. I went to the databases of some of these companies like Skyhook Wireless, downloaded their database, they have a free trial, checked it out, and I'm not found on there. I'm not in their database. And why am I not in their database? Because I fucking use a VPN router, and anyone who comes into my house only has a VPN router as their IP address. Therefore, if they come to my house and say, I'm going to go on Facebook, Facebook is going to see the VPN IP address, not my actual IP address. And no one's ever going to see that and associate that with any activity that can match the location there. Okay, so there you go. So if you want to be in that public database, then don't care about what I'm saying and don't worry about it. If you do not want to be in this public database, which will totally ruin your privacy, let me tell you, then you should care significantly about, hiding this IP address and location combo using a VPN router. Now, so we have a VPN service by VPN. You all know that. And and you say, okay, let's get a VPN router, except you go to my store, and I haven't sold a VPN router in a year and a half. I haven't sold in a year and a half. And yes, actually, I still have 10 of these. So I do have a way of selling 10 Raspberry Pis for some unknown price. I mean, these are very expensive now. So, so I have 10 of them. It's the last stock I ever got, and I never sold them. So, I guess I could sell them. I don't know what the price is going to be. So I can sell those, and we have the software for it, and you have to assemble it. And, and if you buy a Raspberry Pi kit complete from Amazon, it's going to cost you around $200. So, which is like really expensive for Raspberry Pi. I mean, they used to cost around, I'm going to say $100 complete before, maybe 90 some, and then the software I sell for it is $99. So because I haven't been able to sell any, so I decided to build another Brax router, and this one is based off Ubuntu. And since I can't find a continuous stock of Raspberry Pis, I found this. Okay, so this is an Intel NUC or Mini PC. The specific one that I have here is this one. How come it's not? It was focusing before and then, gee, okay, it stopped focusing. So that's it's terrible here. Can't focus. So this is the Intel NUC, and that's about the size of it. So yeah, it's slightly larger than two Raspberry Pis. About a Raspberry Pi is about half this, and a little bit thinner. So this particular model, so this comes complete. So this is the entire Mini PC right here, and this model came with a hard drive and 8 gigabytes of memory. It comes with 256 gigabytes of RAM. And it doesn't come with a display or keyboard or anything. It came with cables, HDMI cables, power supply. So it's fairly complete, except you have to plug in a monitor and keyboard and mouse. And I paid, before tax, because I got to pay tax, but before tax, I paid $187 for this. Okay, so this whole unit here is an Intel Celeron. It's called a NUC 7. NUC 7. So we're now at NUC 12. The current version of NUC is NUC 12. But this was the version, I guess, 6 years ago, or 5 years ago. So this is a NUC 7, NUC 7. And I bought this for $187, which is pretty much the price of a Raspberry Pi, with 256 gigabytes of RAM. And you actually can use it as a desktop. Okay, it's not super fast. It's Celeron. It's not. I'm not going to say super fast, but it's actually usable. I'm trying it right now because I'm using it for live streaming. It's not good enough for doing a live stream, but for simple browsing and so on, it's actually functional. Ain't the fastest, but yeah, it's fairly functional. Now, there are many NUCs. This is the probably one of the oldest ones you can find. The NUC 7. And no, it's not. Well, when you buy it, they preload Windows on it. So yes, you buy it with Windows, but as you will find out, it doesn't have Windows on here. Okay, this is the version that I'm also using. In fact, I'm live streaming with it right now. So I have another. This unit here, I have one right here right now, running the live stream. So this is a NUC 12. And this one is running i7, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of hard drive, how many, 16 cores or whatever it is. It's very, very fast, obviously. It's a brand new computer, 12th generation Intel, so 12 something model Intel chip. So 2023 chip, this one. And it comes with, the difference between the two units is that this one is running an SSD drive, NVMe. So this is completely NVMe drive, SSD. This one is not SSD. This is running a SATA drive. This one is running SSD. And this one has USB-C ports. The other one does not have it. So, so there are more connections there with USB 3.0 ports as well, and USB-C. So this is like a brand new laptop computer or desktop. So this is a very powerful thing. I bought this one, so that's what the one running the live stream right now. I bought that for $649. Okay, which is a laptop is 1500. So that's the highest end model. So this one I bought for 187, and I gave people a link to it. I'll put the link in the description later. So come back after the broadcast. I'll put the link in the description later for the links to this. This is the $187 version on Amazon.com, and this one is the $649. This is the highest end. Then there's levels in between. Like a couple years old might be 400, all the way down to 364 was the lowest I saw on the mid range. So, and then it comes in this box here, complete power supply, cables, everything on here. Now, what I do on this Intel NUC is I install Ubuntu. So you can install Ubuntu on here. So I'm not running Windows on these. So I overlay the Windows with Ubuntu on all of these units. And I can give you instructions how to do that. You need a flash drive. So you need a like a SanDisk 32 gigabyte flash drive. You flash Ubuntu on it, and then you have to disable secure boot on these, because they're newer PCs. You got to disable secure boot. Then you boot, change the boot order to boot from the USB stick, and then you can install Ubuntu. After you install Ubuntu, it's actually pretty simple. So that's actually the hardest part. After you install Ubuntu, if you need Brax router software, I can just give you a tiny little file with just a tiny little script. And you run this script. It's a bash script. You run the script from your newly installed Ubuntu on Intel NUC, and Brax router will install in a few minutes, couple of minutes, and you're done. 2 minutes and you're done. You have a Brax router. Now, because it's more powerful than a Raspberry Pi, these computers can be used as a desktop. So you can permanently add a monitor, keyboard, mouse, and you can use it as an extra computer. If you don't want to do that, that's fine too. You can remove all of the displays and just leave it in the corner, just this little square here. Plug it into your network, and there it is, a Brax router. If you want to go in wired mode, because it already has, in the back there's already a port for Ethernet that goes to your main router. And then this becomes a VPN router when you do that. But if you want to extend your network, then you get one of these. Okay, this is a, too bad that, the focus was working before I did the live stream, and then the focusing is not working. I was going to show this close up, now I can't. Darn. Because the focusing was an issue. It kept focusing in and out. So I tried to fix that, and then now we're worse off. Anyway, so if you plug this in here, now you have two Ethernet ports. So there's a gigabit port in here and the gigabit port in there. So you can buy this off Amazon for cheap. I don't know, $15. Okay, so in the combination then with this and this, now you have a full VPN router, and you can route gigabit traffic through here, and it'll go through here, and then you can route it however you want. You can route it via VPN. You can route it open, meaning make it like a regular router. You can run it through Tor if you don't want to pay for a VPN. You can route it through Lokinet if you want something faster than Tor, but you don't want to pay for a VPN. So if you have all that, you can actually run all those modes on this. And the nice thing about it, because it's using Brax router software, which is tied to Bytes VPN, everything's automatic. You don't have to do anything. You can actually, it self-updates. And if you want to reinstall it, the script is there. If you want to, install a complete new version, just run the script again. It will reinstall the whole thing to the latest version, whatever is available out there. and it's going to be very, very simple. And then you can add additional software to this. For example, you can run SyncThing. You can use it as a, if you get a larger drive, or you can put an accessory drive. Since there's USB ports in here, you can put another drive in there. And then you can use this for storage. SyncThing, for example, can store your files and dump it right into the extra drive. And and you do not need any monitor or display. You can actually run all that remotely after you set it up, and then you just have it run standalone. All you have to do is reboot it if you need to. So anyway, just giving you ideas for that. And this is the higher end one again I'm showing here, and you don't need that. You can happily use this cheaper one, which I bought for $187. Okay, it was, some of the other stores sell this for as much as $235, but I found the source for $187, and I'll pass that link. It just saves you a few bucks, because some of them, you know, they're charging a little extra. So that's the Intel NUC. Yeah, this is, yes, I have to be frank. This obviously is easier because, aside from assembling the unit, it's smaller, and you just put the SD card in and boot it, and it's done. But this Intel NUC is just more sophisticated. There's more we can do with this. So even if you're not using it as a router, you always have an extra computer. So this is more longer term value. I mean, comparing this to a Raspberry Pi is like, you know, significantly, a Raspberry Pi is significantly underpowered compared to this, and this is not super powered. The ratio of speed between these two is probably 10-1. So this is the newest version. This is the old version. Speed wise, is probably 10 times faster. This one here. But think of Raspberry Pi as several times slower than this. Many times slower. Maybe 5 times slower. So this is much more powerful than Raspberry Pi. So what I'm saying is, now we have an option. We can actually start making available the option of a Brax router again, and for now, all you have to do is get yourself one of these Intel NUCs. I'll give you a link, and then I'll put it on the store. I'm still writing the documentation for it. Should be done next week. Otherwise, it's working. If any of you want to try without documentation, we can do that already. Then you can just wait for the documentation to arrive. I mean, it'll take you several days if you want to buy one of these. So yeah, so if you have one of these already, ready to go, then I'll put the Brax router software in the store, and then you'll be able to download that, and you can be up and running pretty much immediately. It's so much easier to run this, obviously, because you can put a display keyboard. You know, it's like a desktop. So because of that, it's very, very easy to operate. It's like it's night and day with, you know, trying to deal with a tiny little Raspberry Pi with no monitor, no keyboard. It's very hard to do that. Okay, so Daisy Crazy left a comment. Hold on. I wait all week for these live views. People have no idea how vulnerable we are. So many things you talk about happened by people I never met. I wish I found you sooner. Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for your contribution to this channel. Anyway, I wrote the software. It took me weeks to make this. I mean, it's very difficult to do, and I had to do it from scratch because the Raspberry Pi version is completely different. And then I added the LokiNet, so the LokiNet routing. So this is one of the few routers that can do LokiNet routing, as well as Tor routing, VPN routing, and open routing, wired and Wi-Fi. So the wired part is the unique part, because, you know, you buy one of those cheap units from wherever, and they operate in Wi-Fi mode. This can actually route the entire traffic in your household, you know, as a kind of a bulk wired solution. And I have a video about it on the Raspberry Pi, but the construction of it and how you set up your network is exactly the same. as in that video, except instead of a Raspberry Pi, you use one of these. So this is just an option because I'm kind of sad that over the years, the last year and a half, I haven't offered a solution, and I'm so glad that I can give you a solution. Again, the software is only $99, but I mean, you do have to do the installation yourself, meaning you have to install Linux on it and then run the script. Obviously, if you know how to install Linux, it's no big deal. Okay. Private Celly user became a member, plan 1. Thank you so much. Thank you, Celly user. So at the moment, the skill level required to do this is you have to be able to flash a USB stick and using Balena Etcher, and then go into BIOS, set secure boot off. I have instructions, and so it requires some fairly basic tech skills to do, and from then on it's just running a script, and then from there it's nothing. You can figure it out without documentation. This is a lot simpler than a Raspberry Pi. On the Raspberry Pi, you had to, if you put a dongle in, you had to dual boot. So people forget to dual boot, and it's just the way the Raspberry Pi worked. I wasn't able to detect in real time what the device was. This is different. On this one, you attach a dongle, you attach this in here, and you boot it, it's running. You don't have to do anything special. And I tested it on these two completely different models. They actually install very differently. Their BIOS is completely different. Everything is different. The devices are different. The hard disk sizes are different, and they install just fine. So that's one method of installation. I have another method of installation for those who want to keep it simpler. You still have to flash a USB stick, which I can probably ship you. And that is the version that it's Clonezilla. So you load it in and you install it. Except it requires the exact same hardware as this. Meaning, in order for that to work, you need the $187 model. This exact model, the NUC 7, with this size hard drive. So it has to be this exact model, which is a NUC 7 CJYHN. That exact model, with the exact same size hard drive, because you're going to restore to it. And when you restore, it's done. You're ready to go. Now, how do you manage the router from these? It's actually quite simple, because all you do is you go to the browser and then you type the URL of the website of the NUC, which is called localhost. That's it. You type localhost on the URL line, hit enter, and there you go. You get your Brax router screen, and you can change whatever, and then when you're done, select reboot from the menu. And that same web interface can be accessed from the remote devices. So any device that's connected to the Brax router can change the configuration from that same setup screen just by typing the IP address of the Brax router. So if you're already connected to it via Wi-Fi or wired, simple matter, and you can do it from any location. So you actually can run this headless, meaning no display. You can hide this in a closet. It doesn't have to be visible. Okay? And it's not going to overheat. It's not like the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi would overheat. This one does not. Better cooling. So it doesn't have a fan, but it has better, there's a lot of space in there. So it's a better cooling machine. So, okay, so that's the plan. I do, like I said, I have 10 of these Raspberry Pis I can sell. It's not in the store, so I'm not sure what the price will be. Probably cheaper than what they're selling it for at Amazon. Like I said, they're selling this for around $200 at Amazon, the kit. So this will be less than that. don't know what the price is. You know, maybe 100 some, 130. I don't know. I have to figure out, because I can just sell it myself as a Raspberry Pi and not care about Brax router, and I can sell it for a lot more. Okay, so that's the main topic for tonight, and now I will just interrupt for a commercial break, which is for my only sponsor for the last many years. I haven't had any sponsor but myself. And that is Akamai Linode. So Linode, in case you didn't know, got purchased by Akamai, and Akamai is a huge big tech company. In fact, if you may not know it, but you go to websites run by even Google and Microsoft and Yahoo and all that, and the servers actually connect to Akamai because Akamai is providing the infrastructure for duplicating the data on the internet so that it doesn't take so much effort on their part to serve it. So that's how they can handle billions of people in traffic. So that's what Akamai does. And Akamai now set up Linode as in their cloud computing division. And so you're wondering, is there any effect to, cloud services provided by Akamai via Linode? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, the good thing is there's no change in the way Linode is operating currently. The good news is that they're actually expecting that by the end of this year, they will have opened up many, many more data centers, possibly double the data centers. So maybe some in the Midwest. We don't have any Midwest servers, and certainly in many more countries. So I'm excited for that because I'm a big Linode user, and Linode is still the cheapest. And they have raised their prices a little bit and then lowered it on some. And I think in the end, I still come out okay. So it's still turning out to be a lot cheaper than their competitors like GoDaddy or AWS or any of those. So consider Linode if you're thinking about setting up servers. And if you use the code Rob Braxman, linode.com/Rob Braxman, they give you a $100 credit, and then you can use that within a period of 2 months, and you can test it with that. And some of the servers are so cheap, like $5 a month, that you may not even spend the gift code. So anyway, just something to think about. Okay, let me get into the questions now, and let me just see. Are there any packages with email? Are there any packages with email and VPN? I don't know what that means. What do you mean packages? I have a VPN service at the store. I have a email service at the store. These things, if you buy the Brax router software and you need the VPN service, you obviously need a subscription. And if you go with some other player, then you have to install that player's VPN configuration or profile into this. If you're dealing with Bytes VPN, you don't do any of that. It's automatic. It updates profiles. You never have to worry about being out of date with that. It's always the latest profile, and it's all set for you. So Daisy Crazy is a member again on Plan 1. Thank you. So so let me see what other question there is. By the way, just an announcement here, since we're talking about products. We of course have the Brax 2, and we're not yet close to releasing Brax 3, but there will be a Brax 3. Just pulling on my Brax 2 here. So this is my Brax 2, and with a custom case sold by somebody on Brax me, and it's a dual SIM phone, which is actually very interesting because dual SIM kind of fits the profile of what we need to do safe two-factor authentication. So it's pretty good with that. And it's running Brax OS, which is open source OS from the Good Phone Foundation. So anyway, Brax 3 is going to be available probably in the fall sometime, and it looks great. It looks great. It looks, I suppose, it looks kind of like a iPhone 4 XL. Actually, it looks kind of like a new. I'm sorry, Pixel 4 XL, or it actually looks like a new iPhone. So it has that same, shape, and yeah. So it's very thin. I think the thickness was 7 millimeters. So thinner than the current model. So it's very pretty phone, and then with kind of a matte finish on the back, on the back glass side, and so that's slated for fall sometime. And if we still have any Brax 2 phones by then obviously we'll sell those for a lower price. So we'll have Brax 2 for a while. We probably will have Brax 2 while we're selling a new Brax 3, but it will be a lot cheaper by then when we have the new stock. Is satellites capable devices coming? You don't want that, Jay. So there are satellite kind of phones, meaning Starlink. It's basically what Jay's talking about there is Starlink cell service. And it's really made to have cell service in areas where you can't get cell service. Like, as an example, Iceland, some remote parts of Iceland and Greenland. So what do you do there? I mean, you can use a satellite phone or you can use satellite cell. So they're offering satellite cell, but it's not going to be high speed. So if you're thinking that you're going to have a high speed option with cell, then no. So, for example, if you're in some remote part of Australia, instead of a satellite phone, you can have Starlink cell. So they're going to offer that soon. I don't know when they're putting the satellites up in the air, but Musk already talked about that. So that's coming. I don't know how soon. I mean, could happen soon. And I don't know what frequency it's going to use. And if there are phone models that can support that. I don't know if it's going to use existing phone frequencies. These are questions I don't know the answer to. It's just that it's going to be slower. So it'll be it's not going to be high speed. It's going to be probably slower than 3G. So, but it'll allow you to connect through the satellite without using a local carrier, which is kind of interesting because somebody said, does it work in China? Which is if you had satellite cell, I guess it can work anywhere because you're not really dealing with a local carrier. So I don't know where the signal is sent, because if they have to send back to a local carrier, then I guess we're zucked, because that's how the current internet service works. So the satellite, so in your area, the satellites are flying over the air, and for a short period of time, one of the satellites passes over, then your antenna follows it like that, and then when the next satellite comes, it flips over and gets the next satellite, and then it does it over and over. So the satellites are moving up in the air at 27,000 miles per hour, and every few seconds you get a new satellite, and then the signal that you send up to the satellite is reflected back to a local aggregator in the area. So it goes downstream to somebody who will take that signal and then feed it to the internet. So I don't know exactly, how they manage that and how they'll manage it on the internet. And I need to research that more because, I have Starlink and I'm not very happy with the Starlink service. Starlink service does not work too well in big cities. So if you're in a big city with high demand, there's too many people using it and there's not enough bandwidth, especially at night. So yeah. So as far as am I a big fan of Starlink? No, but it's good to have a backup. For me, a backup service is not tied to a local cable company. So, and the other thing about Starlink that's kind of interesting is that because it uses IPv6 and then it exits out at IPv4 at those aggregator sites that send the traffic to the internet, everyone on that satellite then ends up with the same IP address or same bunch of IP addresses because we're all sharing the same routers. So because of that, then it's kind of like semi-VPN. So many times I go use the internet on one of these sites like ChatGPT, for example. And ChatGPT does not allow me to use the VPN. It stops me. It said, "Oh, you're security violation." So if I'm going to use ChatGPT, I'm forced to turn off the VPN, which would normally zuck me and expose my actual IP address, but I use Starlink for that. So whenever I need to use my open IP address, I use Starlink. Since Starlink IP addresses are shared by thousands, then you can't track location or anything. If I give the Starlink address without a VPN router, it's fine because it's a shared IP address. So is that a better solution than a VPN router? To be honest, it can be, but Starlink is expensive, of course. Starlink is an expensive solution. I mean, Starlink charges me $130 a month. Depending on your area, it's plus or minus $20. So that's expensive for the low level of service I'm getting. So for example, the upload speed can go as low as 2 megabits per second. I mean, that's extremely slow. So anyway, so for me, the Starlink is a backup. If companies like ChatGPT said, "Oh, you can't sign in because you're on a VPN," I say, "Zuck you." Yeah. So I'm still safe. So let's see. So the current AI technology is very limited for huge models. Let me just. I don't know how to react to that. So let me look at the other area here. Okay, so by the way, I don't know if the next Brax phone is going to be called Brax 3. I don't actually know that. The model name is not yet decided, but we have to match the model name to the FCC filing and the CE. What is it? CE. It's the CE rating for Europe. So the FCC and CE rating. So you have to file with a device name, and yeah. So the actual device name is not yet known at the moment because you got to pick some model number. So A3, X2, Z1, B1. I have no idea. I think it's going to be B1, but I'm not sure. Let's see. What's the next question here? Google VPN. Yeah, that is talk about a joke. Kind of like saying Apple Private Relay. Wow. you really fall for that Apple private relay. So now it's like Google DNS. So you're not paying attention to what's happening there, they're centralizing the internet. Apple centralized the traffic for everyone on an iPhone into their trunk, so they can now visualize the entire traffic. And it's not encrypted, by the way. This is not a VPN. It's not encrypted traffic, so they can actually see where you're going there, and they can actually observe that. And now that's in one spot, which is on iCloud Private Relay. And on Google, you got Google DNS. Everyone's Android by default uses automatic DNS, which is going to Google. And so they said, oh, it's HTTPS over DNS, meaning it's encrypted. Who cares if it's encrypted? It goes to Google. Google doesn't care if it's encrypted because it goes to them unencrypted. They're the destination. So what is the encryption going to do if it goes to Google and Google can see everyone's DNS? And they're the least trustworthy place for this. So that doesn't make any sense to me. And then you say, I'm going to use their VPN. Oh, yeah, smart move. Centralize it again. So I hope people are smart enough not to do that, because you're already putting your entire life in Google, and you're actually being tracked by the largest tracker on earth, which is the Google ID. So many of you don't even understand that, and I keep trying to explain that. And that's really the purpose of getting de-Googled phones, is we need something that does not have a Google ID. The most important point, the tracking stops when there is no Google ID to match to your device. That's huge, huge important detail. Huge detail. Brax router software runs on a Raspberry Pi and thus cannot be run in a Lenovo notebook. You need ARM instruction set CPU. No, that's not true. This is an Intel CPU running Ubuntu Intel. Okay, this is not ARM, this is Intel. Yes, the Raspberry Pi is ARM, but what I did is I rewrote it. I rewrote the software to work on Ubuntu. So, and that's a good question. Can it run on some Intel device, like a old laptop, as long as you can install Ubuntu? Possibly yes. Possibly yes. It needs, an Ethernet port and a wireless, or at least 2 Ethernets. But the answer is possibly yes. Could you run my installation script on that? Possibly yes. I haven't tried it. I don't know if there are going to be issues, but I can probably resolve it. If it doesn't run initially, it's probably possible for me to figure out why it's not running. There's a few things I can diagnose, and I actually built it for that. And then I can possibly fix it, and then you rerun the installation script and fix it like that. So the way the Intel NUC version works, you can just keep rerunning the installation script, and it will actually put in the latest version. So it's very easy to fix bugs. All you do is rerun the script, and it reinstalls the whole thing completely. So that, especially if you screw it up, let's say you did something you're not supposed to, you mess with the network settings and then you mess it up. Obviously, you can just reinstall Ubuntu, start again, or you can run the installation script and try that and see if that works. So, what is the best OS? Well, Linux is the best OS. So all of these now are running Linux. They come with Windows. One of them has Windows sticker in the back. It came with Windows, but I wiped it out. Don't have Windows anymore, so they're all running Linux. I have one here. Usually I install Pop OS, but on these, because they're Brax routers, I wanted something that's going to work on all devices. So I'm using Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is kind of the stability base for servers. So if you're going to run a server, you typically want to have something with the stability of Ubuntu for the server. So that's what I did here. Is I installed Ubuntu for these. Ubuntu 22.04. Are the NUCs going to run your VPN faster than Raspberry Pi? Well, probably not, because the VPN has to go through the internet, and that's where you get the slowdown. But the Raspberry Pis tended to overheat because when you run at gigabit speeds, it would struggle and it would overheat, and these don't. So, but for the same price point now today, with the Raspberry Pi, obviously this is a much more powerful machine that you can use for many other things in the future, either as Linux or Windows, which you cannot do the Raspberry Pi. This is not an ARM processor. This is a full Intel processor here. So it's a lot more option. The speed of a NUC compared to Raspberry Pi, even the slowest NUC I have here, this slowest one is running, it's a Celeron. I'm going to guess, and this is just a guess, it's probably 5 times faster than Raspberry Pi. This one, this is the i7 16 core whatever. I mean, this is 10 times faster than this one. So yeah, so every generation you get like 100% improvement or more. But because the original one that I showed you, it's a Celeron. This is not an i7. So if I'm comparing i7s to i7s, they're not going to be 100% improvement every year. But because this is a Celeron and the new one is an i7, I mean, this is apples and oranges. This is faster than my laptop. So I'm currently live streaming on this. So I have another one over there. So in front of me, I'm live streaming on these. So, and it works for me because I got all these, I got these displays in front of me here. I got multiple displays, and I don't have to take up a lot of room because they're just in this little thing, kind of like those Mac things. What do you call them? Is it stinger proof? Can you give us an AMD-based small PC to run your VPN? I don't know of a mini. It should run on an AMD as well. Mini PC. I mean, it can't be any much different. So yeah, AMD should run fine. I can't imagine why it would be different. It's the same stuff because it's really Ubuntu. If you can install Ubuntu on an AMD-based machine, then you should be able to run my script on it and install Brax router software. So the problem is to install it, you do need some, on a device that I don't support, you need to be able to go in there and run some commands like ifconfig and so on. If we have to debug something, if something isn't working, you're going to have to run ifconfig, iwconfig, and some of these netstat, and give me the information so then I know why it's not working. Okay, so the way the current version of Brax router works, it's really made for Ubuntu. Okay, so that kind of opens it up. Yes, I'm saying let's use these NUCs because they're cheap. But if you have some old computer, could you use it? And what's the minimum requirement? Well, the minimum requirement is you need obviously some hard disk space. You need sufficient memory. And, because these are 8 gigabytes of memory. And then the other thing is you need to have the correct number of network adapters or network interfaces. So To run in Wi-Fi mode, you need a Wi-Fi adapter and an Ethernet built into the device, or you should be able to do it by plugging in some sort of USB adapter. If you can do that, then we should be able to make it work. Okay, so just telling you that there is a way to make the Brax router work, and and it's a lot more flexible than the one that I built for the Raspberry Pi. Again, it took me a while to do this. It's kind of tedious work, and this is the one of the few devices that can route through LokiNet. So you can route LokiNet, Tor, VPN, and Open, both in wired and Wi-Fi mode. When you go in wired mode, the Wi-Fi gets turned off, so it doesn't emit any Wi-Fi when it's in wired mode. So the moment you attach this dongle onto it and it detects that at boot, it turns off the Wi-Fi. So you're not going to get any transmission of radio waves from the Wi-Fi from this device, because it's going to be off. Okay, so you can check that that it's off. So yeah, so this becomes a true wired router, and it's a very elegant thing because I just wrote it on Ubuntu. Yeah, OpenWRT is fine if you want to do that. I mean, I only make solutions because people need them. But this is not OpenWRT because it has open mode, LokiNet mode, Tor mode, Open VPN mode, automatic installation of profiles, automatic updating. So truly, much more flexible. Plus, it's a complete desktop. You can use it as a desktop. So yeah, so it's not. It's definitely not like OpenWRT, which requires certain kinds of equipment. I mean, that's not for the average person to install OpenWRT or DDWRT. I don't use those. I decided to write my own. So am I doing anything different than OpenDDWRT or OpenWRT? No. I mean, Linux routing is Linux routing. OpenWRT or DDWRT is the same. They're doing the exact same thing I'm doing. I just did my own interface. Okay, so yeah, same thing. Except I did it with a specific objective. Do you ever use token ring if you prefer this over Ethernet? Oh my gosh, Echelon, token ring, IBM, that's, my gosh, you're like, that's in the 80s. Token ring. Back in the day it was Ethernet, token ring, Lantastic. There were just, all these different kinds of things that, NetWare. Come on, man, you're going far back. You think I'd forget that, right? Token ring. Oh my gosh, that's way back. That's very interesting. Yeah, Simon Pickup is token ring. Simon Pickup, you know token ring. So what is token ring? He shouldn't care about token ring anymore. Nobody sells anything token ring. So yeah, that's we're talking 80s here, in the 80s. They're like competing networking methods. The very first main popular networking software was NetWare, Novell NetWare. And so back in the day, everything was Novell NetWare. And then that was the networking scheme of the day. And then that got standardized into just Ethernet and in fact, one of my programmers wrote OS2. Yeah, one of the programmers who worked for me did OS2. So, I mean, that's really, really far back. So, I can only go back far enough to have seen frame relay. No, frame relay is different. Frame relay is what's so there's frame relay. There's the one that starts with U something. I forget now. Goodness, this is so long ago. So that was the way to do WANs back then. So frame relay back in the day before DSL. Yeah, I mean, goes far back. So I mean, I'm forgetting some of this because they're like so far back that nobody actually knows them anymore. But I'm showing my age because I still remember them. So yeah. So I mean, that's really funny when somebody talks about frame relay. Token ring. I don't even remember if I ever used token ring. I don't think so. I used Lantastic. If some of you remember that was a cheap version. The expensive one was Novell Netware, and the cheap one was Lantastic. And when they were doing all that, I was actually doing terminals. I was doing serial cables and serial cabling and serial muxes and so on, because we were doing serial things on Linux. Not Linux, Unix. Yeah. Once your NUC router is running, how about using remote desktop to manage it? You can do that, yes. You can run remote desktop to manage it, but you don't have to, because it really runs from the browser. So, but yes, if you want to run, you can turn on remote desktop on it and operate it full screen with the full interface. Yes, you can do it. It's built in. It's actually in the Ubuntu settings. So, did you use SLIP? I actually don't know what that is. What is SLIP? You started using computers in the late 70s at a hospital. In the late 70s, they didn't have computers in a hospital that didn't run PIC system. Okay, so back in the day, like late 70s, early 80s, just about every hospital was using the PIC system. That was the OS, and it was running on Unix. Most of them were DEC machines and Wang, DEC. What else? What other models were there? Yeah, just trying to remember. Univac. Yeah, see? Those were the mainframes of the day. Yeah. And then when I started, because my first career was developing medical systems, so we had to work with systems that were using the PIC system. It's really backward, really backward stuff, and that's when we were introducing Windows. So we were in the early 90s. We were introducing Windows, and of course they don't work with PIC systems and so on. So and Windows was very new back then. It was still Windows 95. Is DuckDuckGo a safe search engine? If I can help it, I don't use DuckDuckGo if some other thing is available. But yes, it's better than Google. But the problem with DuckDuckGo is it's censored. So it's safe. It's not a matter of safety. DuckDuckGo just censors the results. So there's no privacy issue with DuckDuckGo. The issue is, do you want what they're going to give you in the results? So if you're going to do some serious searching, DuckDuckGo is not the preference. You just go to startpage.com, search through there, and that is going to use Google search, which will give you more search results. Brave's great, no problem with Brave, but don't start coming here and promoting a particular browser, because then you don't understand my channel. My channel talks about browser isolation, which is use multiple browsers. This computer here, which is running the NUC 12, Intel NUC 12 here, has 3 browsers installed. Same here on this NUC 7 here on my other screen. This is running 3 browsers. So one of them is Brave and one of them is Chrome. And let's see, one is Chromium and one is Firefox. So depends on what's available on that device. So I use browser isolation, which is Chrome is for Google stuff, Brave is for non-Google stuff, and then I have other ones for reserve use. Forget about this temporary containers. Forget that. Just use browser isolation. Forget that. Forget those techniques. You know, those techniques are pushed by the companies that make the browsers like Firefox, because they say, oh, we're going to protect you by staying within their browser. They can't protect you inside a browser, because you can have multiple containers and I can browser fingerprint you regardless. So if I can browser fingerprint you, you're not getting any safety from there. That means somebody else can browser fingerprint you. So no, the only safe solution is to isolate the Google ID into Chrome and don't do anything non-Google on Chrome. Chrome will be for Google stuff only. And if it's not Google, you do not use Chrome. Never log in to Chrome, to Google on any other browser. That is it. Browser isolation. Very simple system, but very effective, because it really wipes out the ability of the Google ID to propagate. Without the Google ID, they can't track you. Simple stuff. Can't track you if the Google ID can't spread. Margaret Mary Young, welcome. Okay, it would be nice if Firefox stopped blocking screenshots and such. Firefox is the same problem as DuckDuckGo, and that is they started to get political, and then they anger people, and it's like because you're using these free services with the expectation that they're impartial. Then when they start to feed a certain piece of information, a certain way of giving you information, especially Firefox that gives you a little pocket and things that they curate and show to you, and if it's against your side of things, you can get irritated, and that's what irritated a lot of people on Firefox. That's why a lot of people dump Firefox. Firefox lost a lot of business. DuckDuckGo lost a lot of business for the same exact reason. Okay, so, right. Jay said, stay away from Chrome, YouTube, or anything Google while he's on YouTube. Yeah, right. That makes a lot of sense. No, that is not my advice to you. My advice is to isolate Google to Chrome. So, no, whatever Jay says is wrong. No. Since you have no choice but to be on Google if you're going to watch YouTube and make comments here, at least put it on Chrome alone. So pretty much I only use Chrome for anything Google. If it's not Google, I'm not going to click on it on Chrome, and that prevents the Google ID from ever leaking, since that is the only place I log in with a Google ID. How do you contact celebrities? Come over to this part of town, walk around, you'll see them. I've been seeing celebrities here for a long time. Many have died already. Yeah, so are they all... So, yeah, how much time do we have here? Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I saw Lucy right before she died, yeah. And let's see. I got to remember all their names. Jimmy, goodness, all these big stars. Lucy, Lucy Show, not Lucy Liu, the Lucy Show. What's her name? yeah, I mean, I was at the market, ran into, uh, see, I forget all their names now. Lucille Ball, yes. I ran into Patton. What's his name? Patton? Yeah, because I guess he lived in the neighborhood, and he was just in a kind of a rundown T-shirt, and he was pretty old already. Jimmy Stewart, yes. So George C. Scott, yeah, that's the one I ran into at the market, and yeah. So I mean, I can make a very very long list. You know, many of them. Let's see. Frank Sinatra and Gregory Peck were right behind me. Christmas. And yeah. So, yeah. Just as an example. And then they died. So, yeah. So, those are pretty big, I guess. Frank Sinatra and Gregory Peck. So, yeah. Were you starstruck? No, I didn't go, can I have your autograph? No. I've never asked anyone for an autograph. So, yeah. But unfortunately, I walk around and people approach me and, say hello to me, saying they're fans and they subscribe to my channel. So that happens very frequently. So, right. It's probably, yeah, that's very common. If I even seldom go out and I encounter people and they recognize me. So, yeah. Heck, if Joe Rogan follows my channel, then who else? Some of these guys could be following my channel. They're just quiet about it. What do you think about CBDC? Watch my video. I have 2 videos on it. You live 80 miles east of Los Angeles, Danette. I live, well, if you look at the mailing address for my company, it's in Venice. Will Brax router work with African wireless broadband? It doesn't matter what the internet is. If your internet is cabled, it goes through the cable. The equipment is the same all over the world. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, so yeah, you have to be cable attached. You can't say, can I do a Brax router to somebody else's network that I don't own? No, because you cannot do wireless. You have to be wired. Right. Linus Tech Tips got hacked. Should the average person consider Starlink for internet? No. No, I already told you it's not. They're not cabled? No, you can't. You have to be cabled to do a Brax router. Otherwise, you can't do it. Thank you, Silva. Appreciate it. Yeah, because Brax router is a wired routing. So you have to have DSL or something. It's got to be wired to something. Brax talks about privacy, not security, different things. Well, that's correct. I focus more on, I talk about security, but always with privacy being primary. I don't know who you're talking to when you're, of course, I can't read, is that Japanese characters? Can't even tell. And they're so tiny as well. I don't know what if that's Japanese or Korean, or I don't know what, Chinese. Can't even tell from this because it's so small. And I did a very important video about this that nobody actually watched. That security has, different priorities than privacy. Your business, the enterprise has various security interests in mind that is totally against your privacy. So in my case, I'm very consistent here in that the priority is privacy. So if in a corporate setting where they're going to spy on you because that's what they want for their security, they're spying on you for security. I would make sure that you understand that you're protecting your privacy in that environment because they have a right to do that and you don't because they own the network. So yeah. So yeah. Anyway, as you can see, I cannot read non-Romanized characters. So I don't know what I'm looking at. I think I can recognize some, but in typing, when I don't see it in its like normal written form, it's hard for me to recognize. Is it possible to use smart TVs privately? Yeah, don't use these smart features. It is optional, I don't necessarily worry about smart TVs per se. It could spy on you because they have been used to spy on people who are on active surveillance. But then again, you could just unplug it. You can unplug it. So, well, we got into tangent here talking about celebrities. I actually had one show some time ago where I listed all the celebrities that I actually have seen around here, and obviously there's too many. There's too many. I mean, if you lived in the right area, they're in a supermarket every day. You go to the supermarket and you see them, just like George C. Scott was in the same supermarket as I was, among other stars that are there all the time. So, your smart TV is so annoying. It doesn't work when unplugged. Zuck. Put batteries on it. Are you their friend? Am I the friends of celebrities? Hell no. I'm not into that. Some of you think I'm on YouTube for fame. I'm actually not that interested. Any jazz greats? Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know if I talked to all of them, but certainly watched the greats. Chick Corea, and in fact, I'm going to see Herbie in a few days here. I'm going to go to a Herbie concert. Keith Jarrett and Brad Mehldau, and yeah. Even my own jazz teacher is a great. So, and I take regular lessons from him, so I see him all the time. And yeah, he's a well-known master too. So, yeah, so when I go to jazz clubs, I can actually talk to many of the musicians who are famous because I know them. So, Herbie the Love Bug. B-Link, sir, is too powerful for OpenWRT. Yeah, I think one of these. Yeah, B-Link is one of the manufacturers also of the NUCs, like the mid-range ones. Yeah. So let's see. Let's see. By the way, the reason I saw Lucille Ball and, gosh, I mean, so many stars on that day. Can't remember them all now, but there were so many on that day. Was because it was the Academy Awards night, and they all had their. They go to this restaurant. It's a Wolfgang Puck's restaurant on Sunset Boulevard, and I was nearby, and I just walked there, and and as they were coming out, Lucille Ball and so on were coming out of there. So Yeah. And if you eat at that restaurant, definitely you're gonna be sitting next to stars all the time. Let's see. I remember eating with Telly Savalas. He was right next to me. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very common here, and I don't go jump up and down and say, "Oh, it's a star." No, I don't really. I don't really do anything. I just say, "Oh, it's such and such." So, yeah. We have 10 minutes here, so I'm glad the questions aren't so heavy anymore. So, again, for those who are those just coming into the broadcast, so I was talking about these Intel NUCs. It's so distressing here that I fixed the focus right before the broadcast and now it won't focus. So this is the higher end one, and this has USB-C, 2 HDMI, 2 USB-C, several USB-A's 3.0, and including 2 in the front. This one does not have an SD card slot. Yeah, the newer one does not have an SD card slot, which is interesting. The old one has it. So this is the NUC 7. It has a SD card slot in there. But no USB-C, no SSD drive. It doesn't have that. It doesn't even have the connector for M2. This one doesn't have an M2 connector, so you cannot put an SSD drive on the old one. You have to use a SATA drive. So this one is SATA drive, which is cheaper. This one is, everything is completely brand new, spec'd out. You can open this up, change it to however much RAM you want, whatever the max is. It has M2 connectors and all that. So all the modern connectors on this one. So just like a desktop. Obviously there's space limitations, but you know, you can deal with that. Now, for the next video, I'm going to talk about something and this is really important because I'm talking about this and I'm saying this is a possible solution for Brax router, and some of you will say, well, can I use this for Nextcloud? Can I use it for SyncThing and other things? And of course the answer is yes, because it's a full computer. But on the next video I will introduce you to Synology NAS. So Synology NAS is going to be an option. I will describe it for you. It's really quite detailed in that you can't really, I can't do one video saying this is how it works. It's too detailed for that. There's a lot of stuff to do to it, to configure it. But if you want a solution where you can access your cloud remotely, let's say you want to install Nextcloud, or you want to access your backup services while remote, then you can use Synology. So I'm going to talk about that and why that works as a home cloud, meaning it is cloud, but it's yours. And you can run it even on the internet. And so, okay, so don't just rush to buy this. If, maybe you say, oh, I like that idea. I'm going to get the most expensive one, and you get this most expensive one. When you can get a Synology NAS for 200 some bucks. So, kind of calls into question what you buy this for. So you may want to just, if you're needing something specific for backup, maybe the Synology NAS is a cheaper solution than buying a big one of these, and just use isolated devices for it. So I'm going to talk about that in the next video, and I'll explain what Synology NAS is. And if it's not sponsored, but Synology did provide a unit for me to try out. So yeah, it's running BSD. They call it DSM, disk. What is it? Disk management, disk software management or something like that. But it's actually just BSD. So it's running BSD. Wonder why they chose that instead of Linux. So maybe they started, maybe the guy that, first ran it said, I already know BSD, so they did BSD on it. Is Synology better than Drobo? Now, don't know the answer to that. I'm just going to tell you what, Synology is very well known, and it's well known in corporate circles. A lot of corporations and small businesses run their business from Synology NAS. So, yeah, so we'll talk about that. I can't probably go into too much detail, but I'll tell you some of the features that you can use, and then maybe in the future, then we can talk about the details. But the whole point to these solutions, even talking about these options here, the whole point to this is to get you away from cloud providers like Google, Apple, iCloud, because these are like spied platforms. So you need to get away from these and take control of your cloud services so that you own the server running it and you know what it's doing, or run it from your house if you can. You can't always do that. And so that's why, now I'm going to be frank with you. Synology wanted me to promote other things that they want, to show off what Synology can do on the NAS. And I said, no, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. It's not sponsored. And I want to talk about why I push you to get away from the Google Cloud. That's really what the solution is about. That's even why I'm talking about this. You can run SyncThing on this very easily. In fact, I can pre-install SyncThing on it, and you can too. It's one command. It's one line. Put on a command line, apt install SyncThing, done. And then you see the little SyncThing icon on the app section. That's all you have to do. If you have SyncThing there and you put SyncThing on your phone, you SyncThing on any device, your other computers, you can actually, back up your photos and everything on one of these, and you don't need anything else. But you can't access it from remotely, and that's where if you have many people in your family and you're sharing contacts and so on, that's where a Synology might be more practical, because you can install Nextcloud, or you can share calendars and photos and so on, and permission them, and if you want to get that sophisticated. So anyway, that's the reason why I want to introduce that concept to you, and I want to make sure that you can understand, where this fits into what you want to do with yourself. Again, I don't make much from the software of this. It's $99. I mean, it took me weeks to make them. For weeks of work, it's $99 is nothing. I only did it because it's such a needed solution. So, and I still have the Raspberry Pi version, obviously, so if you want to do that. But that's an ARM version of Brax router. That's the ARM Brax router. Okay, so we're out of time, folks. So, Great Gold is talking on 2 platforms. so much work for Great Gold here. Thank you. So, you switch from Bitwarden to KeePass today. Yeah, and somebody made a tip just in the last minute here. If you want to sync your KeePass databases between multiple devices, the answer is SyncThing. That's one of the best uses of SyncThing. Sync KeePass databases. Okay, guys, thank you, and hope you have a great weekend. I think we're finally going to get sunshine here in California, in Southern California. Non-stop rain, so we're no longer in drought. we have too much water now, and yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys, and see you next time. Bye bye. Okay, Rumble's still running here, so